Episode 226. Welcome. Really quickly, before I get into anything else, I have an affiliate link with Under 510. They design clothes for shorter men specifically. So if you're interested in that, be sure to check out my affiliate link. Outside of that, let's get to today's video and topic. And we're going to be talking about USA Canada. We have a rematch. We have a rematch going tonight, folks. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be absolutely dynamic. It's going to be so exciting to watch. It's going to be absolutely electric. Absolutely electric. I was so fired up for the last one, and even my last podcast episode talking about that game, I was absolutely fired up, and I'm absolutely amped up to get into this one. I feel like this is just going to be a great game. I don't feel like we're gonna have as many fireworks compared to the last one on Saturday night when we had three fights in 10 seconds. I don't think that's going to happen again. I would certainly imagine there's going to be a lot of physical play. These teams hate each other, so it's going to be sort of a bloodbath. And it's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out. I think going into this one, I would say Canada has the slight edge just in terms of pure skill. I think they did, you could argue they did last time as well. It was really close. But I think honestly, this game with Cale Makar back in the lineup and just some of the adjustments they made to the lines, I feel like Canada looks more balanced up and down their forward group. And then you look at how they are in their back end. They look solidified on their back end. And then you get Cale Makar back in the lineup. He was out for the first game against the US, and now he's back paired with, of course, Devon Taves. Who else would he be paired with? And so I feel like getting Cale Makar back, massive boost for them in this game. And on the other side, you look at the USA and how their group Kyle Connor's out of the lineup tonight and Chris Kreider is in. And that's massive because Kyle Connor, obviously, he hasn't been necessarily playing his best. Kreider scored a massive goal early on in the last game for Team USA against Sweden. And that was a massive, massive goal for him. So he draws into the lineup once again. And outside of that, you have Charlie McAvoy's out for this game, who arguably was their best shutdown defenseman against Canada. So it'll be interesting to see how that situation plays out defensively because USA was, in terms of McAvoy specifically, he was probably their most physical defenseman in that game against Canada. So they're gonna have to rely on someone else to step up physically to the plate so that way they can shut down and try to negate their top players, Canada's. And so that's gonna be an interesting situation to follow. And then I evaluated this in my article today, but the each of the teams projected two first lines. So we'll start with Canada's. You're looking at potentially Braden Point on left wing with Connor McDavid at center. And then on the right side, you have Mark Stone, which is no surprise. I feel like Mark Stone has gelled really nicely with Connor McDavid because that's kind of like the Leon Draisaitl-esque version of McDavid's winger on Canada in this tournament because Mark Stone plays a very similar style game to Draisaitl, so that works out really nicely. And then I thought last game against the Finns, Braden Point and Connor McDavid were extremely effective together at 5-on-5 play. Just absolutely dynamic. When you're looking at guys who can really match the speed, the tempo, the flair, the decision making, Braden Point really matches that of Connor McDavid. It's hard to really name a few guys that can do that on a regular basis, but Braden Point's one of those guys. And he's also got the endurance to be able to maintain that speed with him. So having Braden Point there is going to be huge. I feel like they're going to make a massive impact together at 5-on-5. Then you look at the USA side, on the flip side of things, you have the Kachuk brothers, the Bash brothers on the top line with Jack Eichel. Give me an absolutely electric line there, too. You have two premier top lines because in terms of secondary scoring, I feel like if USA can get scoring from Jake Gensel, Chris Kreider, Dylan Larkin, who else am I missing? Jack Eichel, the Kachuk guys. I don't feel like they're going to need production from guys like Austin Matthews and Jack Hughes that much because those are two guys who haven't necessarily been that effective throughout this tournament, to be quite honest. I have barely noticed Jack Hughes, and I think Austin Matthews is dealing with a lingering injury issue. I wouldn't be surprised if he still is injured. He's dealt with injury issues throughout the year sporadically, and I feel like he's not going to play for the Leafs this weekend because of that, just because of how he just looks very inconsistent, and something clearly is bothering him, but he's not going to say it to the media. But with Matthews, I feel like that's fine that he can't necessarily play 100%, but you're still getting him at second line center. I feel like if he was playing really well otherwise, and if he was truly 100%, he'd be their top line center. But Jack Eichel's just been unbelievable on that top line, and he's been unbelievable to watch throughout this tournament. Just has been so engaged in every zone, so reliable in every facet of the game. I'm really excited to see how this matchup turns out because we could either see a split where Canada wins one and the US they win one, or we can see USA win both games against Canada, which would be really interesting. And this will definitely, if USA is able to pull this one off, no guarantees because Canada's got a stacked lineup too. But if they'll be able to pull this off, this will be, I believe, a massive thing for USA hockey and a massive movement for USA hockey. So it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be close. I would imagine there's gonna be some back and forth and in terms of goals, and then the game's kind of gonna drop off a little bit towards the middle part of the game, like it did last game a little bit, and then ramp up a little bit back on third. I could totally see that situation playing out again, where like the first it was crazy, the second it was kind of quiet, and then the third kind of ramped that up again. I could see a very similar situation playing out there. Again, I don't see the Kachucks doing what they did last game. I think that was just more of a statement thing last game, especially in the round robin. But I think it's an entirely different situation now. And if anything, I think Canada should be the one initiating it because the US was the one initiating that the first go around. So I think this time it should be on the opposite end of the spectrum. If Canada were to do it and were to challenge physically, it doesn't necessarily have to be Brandon Hagel or Sam Bennett or Colton Parayko, the guys that fought last game. It could just be somebody trying to step up to the two brothers to challenge them right out of the gate. And that can allow Canada to try and dictate things right off the hop a little bit more. But in terms of generality, I it's gonna be a really close game. It's gonna be back and forth. It's gonna be absolutely electric to watch. I'm super excited for this one. And like I said, this could be massive for USA hockey. So we'll see what happens.